Welcome to self-discoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of An Author's Kiss right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy. My guest today is Susy Smith. We're going to be talking about her new book called Ascendant. What is it all about? Well, that's what we're going to learn today. She said, what would you do if society crumbled? I would actually say it's crumbling right now. How would you survive if you had to fend for yourself? Would you be able to live off the land? Susy Smith explores these questions and much more in her gripping Asylum book series, finding inspiration from The Walking Dead, one of my favorite shows. Susy can talk about how she created this dystopian world, as well as the universal themes of human nature, including the right for survival and freedom. Packed with adventure and suspense, blending elements of science fiction, fantasy, dystopia, Ascendant transports readers into a disingenuous world where civilization has collapsed and chaos is the new norm. Well, certainly it kind of, I think it really reflects where we are right now, Susie. So very easy to draw from. And I can understand drawing from The Walking Dead. A lot of people say to me, why do I watch that? And it's not the zombies. It is, what would we do to survive? Who would we become? And we see the meekest of people become the strongest of people. And it is really, really fascinating study of psychology, isn't it? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Yes, it really is. The Walking Dead is brilliant as far as their sets and just portraying what society would look like
Mhm.
if everything just came to a complete standstill. So it was very inspiring.
Yes, I can understand that. We see a lot of other Armageddon type movies, and it's always portrayed that the rich, entitled person gets gobbled up first, and the kind of the person that was never considered to be much to step into the forefront. And I think that is a reflection on society, is that we place so much importance on the big rich CEO top of the chain thing, but we don't give credit to the person that is working hard to sustain him being there. So
That's right.
it's a nice twist where we start looking at people differently.
Yes, that's true. I was talking to someone the other day, and he said, "Did you do a study on um, the homeless because they are the ones who are, out on the street?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, they're no stranger to hunger. They're no stranger to the cold. They are the ones who probably will survive
Mhm.
if anything." Calamitous were to happen, because they're
They're already
living it.
adapted,
They
right?
are. They
Yeah.
really are.
And of course, we're in any of these dystopian type worlds, money isn't going to get you anywhere initially, but the money is that's not worth anything, right? It is, what else do you have to trade, and what you have to trade is skills.
Yes, the barter system like
Mhm.
they did. I kind of thought back, way back when this country first started, and even before then, um, there people bartered for things. They
Yes.
traded work for goods, or and that's kind of, I mean, I don't know if people nowadays would really understand a lot of that. I know, thinking of the younger generation, my Gen Z daughter, I have two Gen Zs and two millennials. And my original thoughts, whenever, I was thinking about the concept for this book, was, would they know how to grow a garden? I mean,
Mhm.
if they didn't have access to the grocery stores, what would they do? I mean,
Yeah.
because everything is at our fingertips. Everything is
Mhm.
just a touch of a button. This or that. Information is that way too. I mean, um, and people get so reliant on it that
They can't
you
become
know
complacent,
that's
right?
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
And I think that's kind of where we are in a society. People have become entitled. I'm
Hmm.
entitled and become complacent, and they don't realize, no, your food doesn't grow at the grocery store. There are
That's true.
farmers working hard to produce that food to you. And if there's bad weather or bad season, like here in BC, we've had such devastating fires, literally
Oh.
obliterating towns and farms and forests and everything else. It's quite horrific. And then, of course, another part of the world, you have these massive floods. And I
Mhm.
think, this is why I say we're kind of in that Armageddon right now. And the people that are going to survive aren't the people that can buy their way to whatever. It's the people that are the scientists, the think out of the boxes, the
Mhm.
survivalists, and, the people that know um, not only do we have to change, but this is how we need to change, and I'm going to lead the brigade. So
Right.
I think in a lot of ways it brings out the worst in us, but then brings out the best in us.
Adv Adversity always does that. It
Yeah.
either brings out the best or the worst, or sometimes both.
Yes.
That's actually a quote from from the first book because I actually had written that in there. But yeah, I mean, you don't know, like, what is it? Never mind, I can't think of it. Necessity is the mother of invention.
Exactly.
That's what I was trying to think
Yeah.
of.
It's Monday.
That's true. That's very true. It's been a Monday. Mhm.
And I think from necessity, that's when we become creative. We start focusing our eyes on what is possible,
Right.
and we start seeing things differently. When we become complacent, we're just expecting, we think everything is an Amazon delivery, and so,
Next day,
although
next
very
week.
convenient, but instant gratification.
Yeah,
When we have lack, we have to step into creativity. And,
yeah, that's
what
right.
is necessary at this moment? What do I have to do in this very moment so I can eat?
Yeah,
So I
yes,
have a place of shelter, right?
yeah,
So I feel secure, all of those things.
yeah, yeah, and that's really what I questions that I bring up in the book. Rabbit snares. Does anybody know how to just different little skills like um, that come out and you just you don't know what's going to happen.
No,
Um, so
I think that we do ourselves a disservice because we have become so complacent and everything has been so easy, on the phone, click there. Um,
yeah.
and people think they're working hard, but a lot of it is kind of chasing their tail and being
Hmm.
unproductive. They think that they're suffering, but they really haven't had a taste of it yet.
Right.
I've lived out of my car. It didn't even have insurance. So I had to skim it around places so I wouldn't get caught by the. So I know, I backed something that went south and I lost everything. And I know what that despair feels of, like, what are you going to do next? How, what, and where? And you're at the bottom. So how do you climb back up? And
Right.
I understand that. It's very, very difficult, especially in a society that is so judgmental.
Hmm.
So if you've got a society that has crumbled, who do they look to? In your book, who do they look to? It's not the opulent ivory tower CEOs. It's that person that's innovative, isn't it?
Yeah. And my protagonist, Lacey, she really has to push herself to because she's these people that she gives asylum to, they're under her care, and she feels the weight of that responsibility and the weight of how am I going to feed these people, especially when you're fighting the government, like in my book, like they are doing. It's difficult, and you do feel despair. You do feel um, down when you can't provide for people that are dependent on you. and she has all these people that are dependent on her, and she's trying to figure out different ways um, to
But then, of
make that
course, if they're
happen.
fighting the government, then there's the risk of persecution because of that.
Yes. When she's staying on the farm, the family farm, and I actually based that off of there is 40 acres on a corner in Osage County, Oklahoma, that I spent almost every summer as a kid there. It was my grandma and grandpa's farm, and that's the location that I use. And so
Mm,
I draw a lot from memory,
you're right.
and stuff. But yeah, she has to um,
Not only feed
evade.
them, but keep them safe.
Yes, find out how to evade the government. But her uncle had placed her on that farm. So there's a measure of false security there for a while where she thought her uncle was going to help protect them from the
Mm.
government. So,
And we generally do find those that struck the most strength very
mhm,
often could be the easiest sport, right?
mhm,
And show their
yes,
weakness because, well, let's face it, everybody's out for their own individual survival. So when
yes,
it comes to selling out the collective for their own survival, and that's what people of strength do, they look for the weak one, and the weak one will always turn Judas,
mhm.
right? And
Yep, I
so,
have one of those.
uh-huh,
I have one of those in there.
yeah, and that's again the nature of the way it is. You don't have to go after the strong people in the group because they'll stand together. Go and look for the
Mhm.
weak thread,
The
and
weakest
that
link.
will always pull it down.
Hmm. Yep, that's very true. The weakest link.
Yes,
That's what you always. Uh, that's what they always look for.
right. Now this is a series.
Yes, it is.
How many
I am
books?
three. I am working on the third. I plan to I'm about a third of the way through it. I feel like, but it might be a little bit bigger than the other two books because I do feel like I need to put a period, a stop on it at this point. Um, but their journey's not done yet.
Right, exactly. What
Yeah.
was you've got the Ascendant.
Mhm.
Is this the first one in the series or the second?
The
Uh,
first one is Asylum.
Asylum. Okay.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and is that where everything kind of goes wrong?
Yeah, yeah, that's the book where everything just gets shut down, and she goes to the farm, and they all gather there, and their journey begins. And
Mm.
with Ascendant, my protagonist Lacey and Jace, I would call him my other protagonist, um, are on the run from her uncle, and it just goes takes off from there.
Yeah, you kind of always think family will stick together, but they don't. It's always about whose principle is stronger and
Yeah,
who's got the most power.
right. It's blood. Some doesn't have anything, to do with who your family is.
Yeah.
And you find that out. She finds out who she can really trust, and who she can depend on. And her uncle ends up basically selling her out to a human trafficker. He's a bad guy,
Mm.
and he does that, and she's just like, I cannot believe he did that. And when she finally gets loose from that, I'm not going to give spoil. I think if I say that, that'd be too much of a spoiler. So
Yeah, no, you got to read the book to find out.
yeah.
I always find these kind of books fascinating because, as I said in the opener, reading your piece there is that it's such a reflection on life and society. And I think very often through things like The Walking Dead, books like this, and I mean, look at the Walking Dead franchise, how so many spin-offs have come from that,
Yes,
different
yes.
angles of the same situation at different times and how
Mhm.
everybody coped with it and who they became and everybody had to do something they didn't like. Everybody
Yes.
had to do something that they never would have done, but that was survival. And,
Mhm.
how to live with yourself, and some live with guilt and some find power. But I think it's we reason why we watch these things or read these type of books is that we know that in many ways it is a reflection on society right now.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
when we can pause and go, okay, take away the Walking Dead, which I think we have so many living Walking Deads walking around, where they're just, abstaining from life,
Yeah.
just being zombies. Um, and then we have, the power struggle that's going on. And it's such a reflection on life
Mhm.
that I think it helps us actually see life from a different point of view and perhaps see things more clearly.
Yeah. I, you do tend to see things more clearly after you've been through, you know, a horrific ordeal. And she
Yeah,
does grapple with um, what you were talking about, doing things that you wouldn't normally ever think, that you would ever do. But you have to do it to survive. You have to make yourself, force yourself to do these things that you wouldn't normally do. And then living with yourself after the aftermath, the
yeah,
backlash of that can be traumatic. So,
yes. Excuse me, got to sneeze. Um, One thing I don't understand in any of these type of shows is that we go so backwards in time that we have no power, literally electrical power or anything. And it's like, but you would think that would be a priority of any of the natural forces to get out there, make sure that power plants are protected and that they're going, and that they're not taken over so they can provide this power. And even, aftermath that, okay, they went down, but there's surely got to be some people who want to put them back up again. And it's just like
right.
we always get thrown back into the dark ages. Um, are you thrown back into the dark ages with your book?
A little bit, but you got my take on it, is yeah, they could restore the telephones, they could restore um, the electricity and stuff like that, but they cut it off to control the population. If you're if if you're in power and you're trying to figure out how to control the population, and to spin your own narrative and all that, then that is a good way. Cut off communication, cut off creature comforts is what I call electricity, because
Mm.
I mean, honestly, we can survive without
We have
electricity.
done,
People
yes. I mean, you
people did
think,
it for a year. I mean,
yeah,
eons.
yeah, right, exactly, exactly. And if you look at this world right now, if the plug got pulled on us, we live in such a digital world
Mhm.
that, how would we, without our computers, without our phones, without our TV and our lights, you know, um, gosh, I got to turn around and talk to somebody, um,
Actually not. Yeah.
face to face. And um, but the other thing is, you talk about cutting off communication. They always leave communication open enough to get the wrong information through. And in a sense that we're seeing right now, you've got so many like Twitter's banned this person and banned that person, but they went and started their own.
Mhm.
And, lies and stupidity and everything else still manages to get through to people. And when people are in fear, when they're in hysteria, they buy anything you can deliver them,
Mhm.
anything, because
Yes.
you cannot think rationally when you're in a state of fear, because everything about you crumbles, tightens up. You're not
Yeah.
literally getting the oxygen to the brain, right? And
Right.
so that's why you need the person who takes the deep breath, calms down, and looks
Right.
at things from a common sense point of view.
Exactly.
Is that who
Exactly.
she is? Is she a common sense type of person?
Um, yeah, once she takes the deep breath
Yeah.
and, you know, takes a look around her and is realizes, okay, my uncle lied to me. He's not here. He's not protecting me. What do I do? What do
Right.
we do now? So she forms hunting parties where they go out and hunt for deer and they lay traps, and she's very
Resilient.
yeah, she really is. And she's got people like my other protagonist, Jace, who's backing her
Mm.
and helping her do this. So yeah,
Yeah, I
she
mean, there's the other show that's quite fascinating, The Last of Us, about the mushrooms taking over. And
haven't watched
oh no, highly recommend. You would love it, truly.
that.
Just the synopsis of it is, you've got this scientist at one point talks about as global warming comes and the world heats up, mushrooms are the fastest growing uh, organism on this planet,
Wow, I did not
and
know
uh,
that.
and it has an intelligence of its own. And basically, what it does, because we're heating up the world, they become more, and they actually take over the mind of people. Right. And so, it's like The Walking Dead, but you're kind of not dead, you're mushroomed.
You're
Right. So
mushrooms.
and so this is, how this comes about, and then how you tell if they can tell if someone is mushroomed or not. And there is no
Right.
cure. There's just this, but there's one girl that has been bitten, but she's fine. And it's why, and
Okay.
everybody is wanting to find out why. But it's again, it's about survival and what people will do,
Yeah.
and a different kind of look at it. Um, and how people then group together, to protect their turf from the outside elements. And so she's doing that on the farm. It's like
Hmm.
providing sanctuary, providing food and substance and a place on the farm. But at any time, that farm could be attacked.
Yes. Yeah. 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 And they live with that knowledge and that
Mhm.
kind of that fear, every day. They're listening for the big ATVs to come over the hill, the big military trucks,
Right.
are they going to stop? What do they want now? Why are they, patrolling and, watching us, that kind of thing.
Well, they always want
So,
your resources. Right.
and they
I don't
do.
care you're sustaining your group. Oh, very nice, but we want half of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, and at one point, they do come in and take all the food that she has that they hunted and got, and they take all of that, and she's back at square one, and she's just, yeah. So
Yeah.
she does suffer setbacks.
Yes. And this is the thing, it's that we're in a world where we're asking people to stop dividing and start coming together. We're in
Hmm.
a world where the universe is asking us to raise our frequency, raise our vibration, raise our consciousness. And
Hmm.
as we raise, we actually step more into a peaceful zone of a plateau of living. It doesn't mean we don't see what's wrong and we don't fight for what's wrong, for against what's wrong, but we do it from a more peaceful aspect. And so people that are thrown into that survival, it can either make them ugly, survive at any cost, me or you, mate, or it can make people feel protective and step
Right.
into that higher frequency of kind of lovely, caring, and protecting. And
Yeah.
you've always got the people that if you can put a weapon in the hand and say you're free to kill, that will jump at it because they higher consciousness. No, that means work. That means me, doing caring about other people. Why should I care about anyone else? I only care about me. And we have
Right.
too many of those right now.
Yeah.
Far too many of
Yeah.
those. So I think this is what's always the draw to books like you have, shows like that, is that it is a test, not only of your resilience, of your character, of your strength, your resilience, but it's a test of your soul as
Hmm.
well.
Yeah, that's true. Because there is someone who just does that. He just goes all out, and there's no authority now for me to check me. So I'm gonna take what I want. I'm
Yeah,
gonna do what I want. And she suffers at the hands of that too, but she comes out on top. So
right. Well, I mean, you talk about human trafficking, and today, just on the news last night was, talking about cyber trafficking, sex trafficking with teens and etc. And it's such a low life scum dirty business. I've done quite a
Yeah.
number of shows on this. And back 6 years ago when I did a show, it was $150 billion a year industry. And that's of what they know, not some
Yeah.
of the underground that they don't know. And that was 6 years
Yeah.
ago. God knows what it is now. And if you're talking about sickness, that is sickness. But any form of human trafficking means that they do not look at you as an entity at all, only what, a commodity that can
Mhm.
provide. And that reveals the lowest scum in the world,
Yes, it
right?
does. It does. It they used to call slaves chattel, or
Yes.
and that's how they, that's how they view the people that they take, like they're less than human, like they're less than. And it's something that I thought would be good to draw attention to, because I don't think people think enough
No.
about that. I live in Oklahoma. I live in a small town, but we are on we're right, I-35 goes, I'm right by I-35, and that is a major thoroughfare in the United States.
Mm,
It goes straight up, and it is used for that
mm,
purpose. And
yeah.
Oklahoma um, has human trafficking cases,
Well,
and I
every
don't.
town does, love. I mean, every city does. It's just they're very, very good
Yeah,
at
and
how they do it and what they do.
right, and people don't think enough about that. They're not aware.
Right.
And number one, you have to be aware of your surroundings for your safety,
Yes.
but also be aware, of other people around you. Are they in distress? Do they
Mm,
look, that kind of thing? Just open your eyes a little bit and see beyond your first world problems, I
right.
guess is
Well,
what,
I mean,
you know.
people that bought slaves were told that they basically had the intelligence of a monkey. And
Yeah.
that was to them, they thought they were buying people that didn't have much intelligence that they would have to train like a dog, right?
Mhm.
But it was easier for them to accept that than to look at them to have any intelligence, because then how dare I treat you this way,
Right.
right? So
Right. It's a cop
it,
out.
people will keep the wool over their eyes,
Mhm.
because to lift that wool means you've got to be responsible for your actions now. And to keep the wool over your eyes is no, 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 no. Here, see nothing, hear nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I am not culpable for that if
Yeah,
I'm not,
yes,
consciously aware of it. But that's such a cop out.
it is.
Um, they just they know. I really feel they have to know that that's a human right there. You're
They
treating.
do know. They just don't care.
Yeah, they just don't. I mean, they probably treat their pets better.
Worse, yeah. Maybe, yes,
I mean,
but these are people that actually have no soul, and they're not
yeah.
connected to heart. You cannot be in your heart, because when you have an open heart, that's when your soul intellect speaks to you.
Mhm.
Your divine intellect, whatever you wish to call it, God, universe, spirit, energy, source, but doesn't matter what the title is. It comes through you. It's that consciousness that comes through that resonates with your heart, gets your
Right.
it gets your intuitiveness going, and your mind will know what it needs to know when it needs to know it. Um, the thing is with these kind of people, if their heart is closed off, there is no wisdom going through them. They have zero feeling. They are
Yeah.
people of an enormous apathy. When
Yes.
you've got people that have that kind of apathy, that it doesn't matter what they do, nothing brings them pleasure. Nothing. Then you do have the psychopaths, the narcissistic psychopaths that
Mhm.
take great pleasure in hurting other people. That's how they get their pleasure.
Yeah.
But you've got so many, and the people that abduct them, that then take them to those other people, are the people with no apathy whatsoever. There is simply no conscience.
Right. Right. I agree with that. They just don't. How can they?
Right.
And you can try to justify it any way you want, but at the end of the day, the bottom line is that doesn't work. Your excuses,
Yeah. But
don't
they're the
work.
people that survive so well because they don't care who they kill to survive,
That's true. That's
right?
very true.
There
Yeah,
is no moral compass. There is no somebody else to feed. There is no somebody else to think about. It's just them, and they
right,
don't care who else has to pay the price.
right. And when you come up against a person like that, you have to make the decision. Are you going to let them kill you, or
Yeah.
are you going to do what you feel is unthinkable in
Yes.
order to survive?
And that the thing
And
is, there is no reasoning with someone like that.
no,
That
no,
you can't barter, you can't reason, you can't do anything. They're going to take it anyway,
right.
right?
Yes,
So you are protecting what you have or whom you have, or even just protecting your own self. So
right,
because you're the giver that keeps on giving, these people will have no thing about taking you and everything from you,
right,
none
right.
whatsoever.
No, they don't. They sure don't. They don't.
And this is where people, that we see in these type of shows. That's the reason why things like Walking Dead, and I'm sure you will enjoy The Last of Us, those type of shows, because they really do show where a conscience lies. And,
Yes,
and it really does show um, that although initially the apathy people um, kind of take control because they don't care who
yeah,
kills as long as they've got, the conscious people are the builders, are the creators, are the sustainers. And then
yeah,
you have more of them, then there's more of them over the apathies, right?
yes,
So, but
yes,
they're also the ones picked on because they have more of.
yeah, yeah. That is true. That's so true. Um,
What was
but
your
yeah.
favorite character in The Walking Dead? Who do you love?
Oh, Daryl. Of course,
Yes.
Daryl.
Are you looking forward to his new series?
Yes, yes, yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
And of
Yeah,
course,
my
Daryl and Carol, you know,
Daryl Lincoln. Yeah,
yeah,
I love him. Yeah.
I'm sorry that she's not doing the series with him, but she is a prime thing of a beaten down wife who was given
Mhm.
had nothing, just this bully of a husband, loses her own daughter, right?
Yeah.
And look what she has done,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah. Uh yeah, I hands down Daryl and
Yeah.
my kids, my when my daughters lived at home, they're grown now. Boy, you better have that TV set on that station because they were watching.
Yes.
That's what they were watching.
Yeah, my
And
kids,
Daryl was
they
with
got
it.
into it in the beginning and then I wasn't interested, then got me into it. None of them watch it now. It's all me. Why do you
Yeah.
watch it, Mom? I said, because it's such a lesson in humanity.
Yes,
It
it
really
is.
is. It's such a test to who
Yeah.
we are. And I think
Yeah.
if people could go, as you're stimulated by the story, yes, it has its own fright thing, um, but it's such a test to what would I do in that situation? And I think we don't ask ourselves that kind of question enough, and we should.
Yes, that's right. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote this story is I want people to start
Mm,
a conversation. I'm trying, let's start a conversation. What would you do and how would you act? And you don't really know until you get there.
yeah.
But if you think about it and I just want people to, number one, think for themselves. They need to start thinking for themselves and not just following social
Sheepily.
media.
Yes.
There you go. That I was kind of afraid to say
No,
that.
no, no. Sheeple. They're sheeple.
uh,
Bah, this is
yeah,
the truth. This is the fact. This is scientifically proven. Bah, no, it's not. Because they won't
exactly.
think for
Yeah,
themselves.
they don't. They don't. They just take everything that rolls off of the news reporter's tongue
Yeah.
on its face, and they don't dig. They don't proof. They don't proof check. They don't do anything.
It's
And
easier, though. It's easier
it,
for them to blindly, irresponsibly, no
yeah.
accountability to say, but he said it, so it must be
Hmm.
true. Because
Willful.
otherwise, I say this while you're pointing fingers, there's three pointing back at you. Where's your
Right.
accountability, your responsibility? What are you going to do? And they
Yeah.
don't want that
Ignorance is no.
responsibility. They don't want it.
Right.
They rather
Yeah.
follow
No.
some idiot that's telling them a bunch of lies and go, but it's true because he said so.
Yeah, yeah, and the, I'm really that is kind of a danger I feel
Yeah.
with social media and the younger generation.
Yep.
They just, and I just kind of wanted to, whoever reads it, just if
Shake them
they
up a
can
bit.
walk away, yeah, if
Yeah.
they can walk away
Yeah.
from it, just thinking a little bit, you know, that
Well,
then I've done my job.
right. Well, the thing is, all social media, as well as with us, sorry, a bit croaky, um, is an algorithm. It's all kind of vibrational tuning in. What you seed, what you water, what you nurture will grow. If you're going to
Yeah,
seed lies or um, abstinence in the truth, then that's going to be what will constantly come back at you. So, when people give social media a bad rap, yes, it has its enormous detriments, but it also has its enormous positives. It's stay in your
right,
vibration. Try and lift other people up to that higher vibration, and all of that other hysteria stuff, don't feed it. But what's
right.
happened is people have become headliners, and a headline will come up and they buy it hook, line, and sinker. I have publicists that send me people. I look at the content of that person and what they do, and the headline is something sensationalized that's got nothing to do with that person,
Mhm.
right? They just think I'm going to get hooked by it. You can
Yeah,
keep your hysteria. We have enough of it out there, thank you. I want people
right,
of content that are doing something about it.
right, right. Exactly, exactly. Yeah, I caution, my girls all the time. My daughter will start talking about something because she's a Gen Z. She lives on TikTok, that kind of thing. And I don't have anything against TikTok. Don't get me wrong. But
Used
she'll come up.
wisely. Everything
Yeah,
needs a
yeah,
warning sign. Use wisely.
yeah, and it does need one. Um, but she'll come up and say something. I'll go, did you fact check that?
Mm.
Is that really true? So
And I think
yeah,
that's something that we really need to teach everyone, and most certainly the younger generation, um, especially with AI today. And, it used to be a picture said 1,000 words, but a picture can be manipulated so much now. Even a person
yeah,
speaking can be changed. You don't know if it's them. So, yes, you have to go deeper and deeper today to find out if it is true, right?
yeah.
And so that means you've got to take onus on what it is you buy, quote,
Mhm.
right? And if you're buying that crap, hook, line, and sinker, are you a person that is unwilling to fact check that, unwilling to look at the other side of things? Is it easier for that? What does that say about you? How long
Right.
would you survive out there? Because you would be disposable. You would be used as a
Yeah,
pawn, right?
yeah,
Definitely, because you're a
exactly.
puppet that they can pull on the strings, and when you're no longer of use, off you
They
go.
just,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That is so, the AI thing is just so scary to me.
I know. I
I
see. I've got
just,
an argument for AI. I love AI as another tool. But what we have to have is some regulation on the fact that it can't take people over, that it can't, and anything that's really, really important, like, proper things being put out there, that it can't be AI generated. We have to put some restraints on it. But
mhm.
again, it's like another tool that could be absolutely creative. And it can be used in medical, this, that, etc., because they can assess so much faster. It's
Yeah,
like anything, a gun. America loves its guns. Put a
that's
gun in
true.
the wrong hand and it becomes detriment. And oh, we feel for the family, but we're not going to stop your AK-7 stings, whatever they are, right? So
Yeah.
our
Well,
trust to die over that.
right. Well, I think the same goes with the gun issue. It's the guns don't kill people, people kill
Yes,
people.
but they shouldn't have
And
access to these automatic rifles or these type of guns. If it's a gun for
right.
your safety, gun for hunting, gun for sensibility, I understand, but not everybody needs to carry a gun with them, and most certainly not an automatic weapon.
Yeah, I don't know that. they're they're actually legal.
Well,
I
well,
think semi.
they sell them to the kids that go around shooting people in schools. They didn't get them
I
illegally;
don't.
they got them from the
Yeah.
gun places. So, yeah. So again, back to responsibility. If those kind of people that have a discontent with the world and are bitter and twisted about what's happened to them and are not being nurtured through it are going to be the dangerous ones because again, back to apathy, they've got to a point where they don't in order to numb how they feel, they have to obliterate, right? And then in a dystopia type Armageddon, those kind of people you can't reason with, that's beyond that. And you've just got to make sure you're nowhere near them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
They're
that's
not
true.
strategizing, they're retaliating. And
Yes,
they don't
yeah,
care who gets in their way.
it's a reaction,
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And so, the thing is, yes, AI, it does make us have to think more and deduce more. Is that really true? It was that
Mhm.
really, although they do have certain things in place where, no, I can't say that, I can't do that, I can't do this, because I do use AI now and again. Um,
Mhm.
but again, it comes back to you get into a car, you are responsible. This is one of the biggest weapons you'll have. Drive it irresponsibly, somebody's going to pay the price. And I think
Yeah.
we've become complacent on um, callous. We've become callous. And
Mhm.
again, back to headliners, and we've become callous, we've become entitled and, opulent, that we don't realize who's providing or the price that you're actually paying in
Right.
society for all those pleasures.
Right. Desensitized.
Yes, yes,
We become very decent, and I feel like that's kind of a strategy.
yes, yes, I agree. What era
It
does this
is.
set in? What era did the book set in?
I didn't put a year on it. I
Mm.
just it's set present day, you know,
Whatever that present day is, whoever reads it
whatever
when.
that
Right.
right.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
let it
what
be that. Yeah. Yeah.
uh-huh.
And again, it's one of those things that when you read it, yes, you kind of get a feel. What's your character going to do next? How are they going to survive? Oh my God, that happened to them, or that person got lost.
Right.
And but at the same time, I think for me, a book, when you put it down and you're still thinking, you're still questioning, or you're talking about it, then you've got
Mhm.
a book that really has intrigued you to a point to make you reflect on life.
Yeah. I hope so. I
Mm.
really hope so. Um, I don't ever want to write anything that doesn't mean anything. I didn't really set out to become a dystopian science fiction type author. I really wanted to be a romance writer because I really love the romance. I love reading. Romance is
Mm.
one of my favorite genres. But I just my mind, my brain wouldn't. No, I
Do you
mean,
have
I'm
romance
a
in the dystopia thing, though?
yes, I do.
Right, so
Yes, I
you've
do.
blended them all together.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. I guess I did. But yeah, I guess I'm a realist, and I love reading about happily ever after, but that's
Mm,
not really how life turns out. So
right, exactly.
sometimes,
And a
yeah,
happily ever after isn't based on, does he complete me? Is life perfect? Will I live in the castle? It is on, am I living in my truth at this higher consciousness? And am I being a contributor to society as a
the
whole?
protagonist
Er,
has a measure of peace that they've,
Yes. Yeah.
that, yeah,
And that
yeah,
piece isn't an outside piece, it's an inner piece.
inner
And
peace,
when you
yeah.
can match it with an outside piece, it's hallelujah, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the main things that Lacey, that my protagonist, she strives for,
Hmm.
is inner peace. She wants peace. She doesn't want to be, um,
Forever fighting.
fighting.
Mm.
Hmm. Yeah, she
What age is
doesn't.
she?
Uh, 19, she turns 20. She has a birthday
So
in
she's
the
having to do this young.
yes. Yeah, she is young. I did kind of grapple with the age. I think while I was writing it, I think I changed her age about half a dozen times.
Hmm.
So, because, if some of the stuff I wanted to say, if I put her too young, that'd be a little bit much for YA. Um, but I didn't want to make her too old,
Right.
because that kind of takes away from, this. It's astounding that this young person has risen to the level that she has, and has, that and does everything that she does in the book. So I just
Well, did
settled
you
on
see
that.
the Walker series Beyond, where it was all about the youth?
Mm-mm.
It's oh what? Come on, you can't call yourself a Walker's girl. It's the other series which is based 10 years after, right?
Yeah.
And it's a bunch of youth that go on a journey. And they're living in a protective thing, but there's something they have to go and see and do and experience. And it reveals a great deal, reveals a great deal, which then is actually tied into um, Walking Dead and to in Fear of the Dead or not, because the Fear of the Dead is more at the beginning, Walking Dead is
Yes.
partway through. This one is 10 years after it started, right?
Uh,
So I highly recommend because yeah, that's kind of the age group. Well, they're a little bit younger, but the thing about the young, they have the spirit, they have the enthusiasm, the hunger for knowledge, and they're fearless, right? When you get
mhm.
older, they've got a whole lot of things they've got to undo to get to
Yeah.
that stage, and they're more
Right.
fear-based, right? So
Yeah,
having
exactly.
younger, I think, is good because they're quicker to learn.
Yes, that's true. They're more adaptable to their the changing surroundings.
Yes, my
So,
brother's an author, and he changed to youth genre for a few books, and he said he loved writing them because he could do more with the characters. And
yeah.
normally he could do with older characters that are kind of stepped up and been more adult responsible. And these kids can get themselves into trouble, but
Yeah.
but more exciting, but also
Liking,
more
yeah.
revealing. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yes. Uh,
My ne
and
my
I'm sure.
next series is going to be YA.
Okay, all
I
right.
mhm.
So is
Yeah.
you've got the third book to do with the asylum. Are you talking about another book after that?
Yes. Yeah, I'm talking about a whole completely different series that I've
Right.
planned out. So
And what kind of series is that going to be?
that is going to be a YA paranormal.
Paranormal.
Hmm.
Earthly paranormals, out of earth paranormal, or what we're looking at?
We are looking at
Supernatural.
the supernatural. Yeah. My protagonist, he inherits a curse when he turns 16.
Mhm.
It's a family curse, and so yeah, he'll get transported back in time. He'll get to see the beginnings of the witch trials, and see some supernatural things go on
Oh,
himself.
I love
So
that. I love supernatural stuff. I love all of
yeah, I
this.
do too. I
Yeah,
do
and,
too.
some people say, but that's escapism. It's not real. I said, no, it's parallel. Everything
Yeah,
you see in that is a parallel to something that's going on here that is unseen,
that's true.
right?
Yes, that's exactly right.
For me, I just soak them up, and I soak up all the shows to do with them as well, because yes, they're the youth, and always there's a love triangle and all of that type of thing. But again,
Mhm.
it goes back to the way it opens things up more,
Yeah.
to more investigative, more energy around it, more inquisitiveness. And you would love my brother's books, actually. The way he writes, I'm sure you would enjoy. I always love reading them as well. So, um, I mean, writing, I've just written my book, and we're doing a book series, which is other people contributing in it. But the actual kind of pouring out, because I was writing my memoir, reflections of my life, and it's a different type of thing you write. I'm a
Mhm.
blogger otherwise, where I do a blog video. Um, how do you find kind of that discipline of writing? Sitting down, I've got the idea. Are you a pen to paper first? Are you straight to computer? Or do you know each chapter what it's going to be? Or do you let things unravel as they go?
Well, I had to really discipline myself to. I get up every morning before I go to work, and I write. I write at least an hour a day, every day. Saturday, Sunday, I just try to keep going. And I used to be a real big pencil
Hmm.
to paper person, writing my thoughts out. But the more I used the computer, the easier it became to, I don't know what I don't know what you'd call
Download.
it. Yeah, use the keyboard
Yeah,
instead of the pencil.
you're right.
Um, so as far as knowing what I have an outline that it's a general guideline. I don't, I'm a third of the way through and I've gone through the outline. I'm like, well, that wasn't in there. That
Yes.
wasn't in there.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't in there.
Yeah.
So I do kind of let things flow out.
Unravel. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not so rigid. I
Right.
can't be rigid to a certain. I'm not a planner. I'm not a complete pantser either. I guess have you heard that term pantser? As
No, I
like
haven't heard that one.
I'm
No,
kind of yeah, pantser. You write by the seat of your pants.
that's
You
me.
just
Oh, that's
whatever.
me.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah,
I just let
or
it out and then
yeah,
sort
or
it
a
out.
rigid planner who has everything. This
Right.
huge storyboard. I have author friends who talk about their storyboards, and my brain just does not.
Right. No,
I'm going
no,
no.
no, no,
I
no.
can't. I can't work
I
that
mean,
way.
so many authors that I've interviewed have said that, they've had a character in mind, but as they've written it, the character has taken on such a different personality, and that that personality is what starts writing. They stop
Mhm.
writing, the personality is now writing, and the characters become these things that they're meant to become, and that wasn't even thought of by the author. They've taken on a life of their own.
Yeah, I can kind of relate to that. There's a character, a secondary character in these books that I had not intended to use very much, and he just kind of, I was like, he just kind of
So I'm in this
morphed
scene.
morphed into this character, and I really like him,
Uh-huh.
because I had originally written him where he's just kind of, we don't know which side of the fence he falls on, that kind of thing. But he's turned out to be a really neat character to write.
Right.
So,
I think that, when you can have your kind of structure in the sense of these are the kind of characters, this is the gist of the story, this is where I want it to go. Yes, it's good to have that. It's like whenever I do a speech, I can't read a speech because I'm dyslexic. I'll read it backwards. But what I do is I have highlights to keep me on track. Otherwise, I'm reading the energy of the room and I'm speaking. So I think it's that same principle, right? The highlights of what you want to cover,
right,
but then how it comes together
right,
and who these people are and what their situations are evolve as you go.
right. Like, I have the bones
Mm,
of the house, framed. But the other stuff, the trimmings and
yes.
that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
that just kind of comes with sitting down and writing.
I think that's
So,
the exciting part. I think that no, I
it,
do. I think it's the exciting part for an author because you're not dictating what you want the story to be. You're allowing the story to evolve in what it should be.
right, unless you sit there and not write anything for a whole hour, just have one paragraph because your brain.
Yeah.
I don't
And
think
that's
a
okay too.
writer's block, or whatever. But
Yeah, no, that's okay
sometimes,
too. That is like, okay, the character is evolving and hasn't got his cue. Come on. Right?
yeah,
And then you
that's
just have
true.
to wait until they come to you. And when they come to you, then it just blurs all out again. I can't do the
Mhm.
hour, I can if I'm blogging, but if I'm writing something more than that, I need to make sure I've got nothing else on my agenda because I get lost in it. And I wrote my book in 3 weeks. And not even 3 weeks, actually, it wasn't even 3 whole weeks. I just several hours a day just added.
Mhm.
And then, of course, it's been revised and things added, things subtracted, but the
Right.
bones of it being there. And I just allowed it to come out. And then from
Yeah.
there, I can deduce what is and what isn't. So I've gone to workshops, writers' workshops, where every chapter needs to be labeled and you need to know what goes in each chapter. And I thought, wrong workshop for me.
They have a good point, and I wish I could just sit down and clear my agenda, but
Yeah.
I'm unable to do that. And I was, I was very unhappy because I wasn't getting my writing in like I wanted to. And I finally just came to the conclusion, if I'm going to write, I'm going to have to carve out the time. I have to make
Yes.
this time right here for this. And if you get a paragraph written, or if you get 5 pages, or whatever within that time frame, then that's good.
It's a step
But
moving forward. Yeah. And then you've
yeah,
got those, weekends where you say, okay, everybody take care of yourself. I'm writing.
yeah. On the weekends, I tend to go a little bit longer because I can,
Mhm,
because I don't have kids in my house anymore. I'm not in school anymore.
mhm.
I don't work on the weekends, so
Right.
yeah, I can do a little bit more on the weekends.
So it's a passion project.
Hmm. Yeah,
But I mean,
definitely.
did you kind of, when you were young, go, I want to write a book one day? Or is this just something that came to you? I need to write a book.
I When I was a teenager, I realized, yeah, I think I want to do this. I really, really feel like I can do this. But it was, of course, many, many decades after. Well, but my journey just didn't,
A
that
line
just
at the
wasn't,
time.
yeah, it just wasn't the right time. And um my husband, well, what about your book? Where are you with that?
Yeah.
And would push me and stuff. And I'm like, you don't quite understand how this works for me. Um, but I feel like I'm where I need to be,
Right.
and where I'm meant to be, um,
Does he
at this
read
time
as
in
you
my
write?
life. No, he does not. I do have a friend, my best friend from West Virginia, Judy, and I'll write a chapter and I'll send it to her, and she'll read it, and she'll send me
Feedback.
that page. Yep,
Hmm.
she'll send it back, and that's kind of my writing process.
Right. Yeah, it's good
So,
to have somebody that my brother, when he's writing, will send me the various
mhm.
chapters I read, and I'll give feedback to it. And um, so I'm
That's
kind of reading as he,
invaluable.
yeah, yeah. And actually, it's funny with writing my memoirs, but I thought my brother, who is actually a literary professor, teaches at the master's level, I thought that
That's
he'll look
nice.
at my book and go, no, rubbish. But no, he's being, really supportive. And my son-in-law, who's an
Yeah.
engineer, and I thought,
Yeah.
this is talking about my spiritual journey. I thought he wouldn't read it, and he's been fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. With very often we talk ourselves out of something and assuming we won't get the
Mhm.
support, but that support comes from really, different areas, and it's kind of quite, oh, okay, it's pretty
Right.
cool.
Well, we're our own worst critic. I
Yeah,
mean, we are. So yeah, and a big part of that, uh, writer's journey, author's journey, is taking that big step and letting somebody else read
yeah.
what you've written. Um, so yeah, that
Yes,
was a
because
big
it's
step.
it's it's and I remember coming across somebody once who had written a book on the subject. I said, "That's fascinating." He showed me the book. I said, "I'd love to do a show on this." And he goes, "Oh, no, no, no. It's not for anybody else." And the book was like that thick. And I go, "But it's a fascinating subject. You spent years writing this. We should get
Right.
people out there reading it, and we should, share it. That's part of being an author, is going out and doing
Yes.
podcasts and promoting yourself. That's part of it." Yeah.
Ex-
He was so
exactly.
guarded over his book. He didn't want anyone to read it.
Oh,
But Hannah,
wow.
for you have spent God knows how many years on this, on a fascinating subject. And it's
Right.
like uh, too protective over it, and
Yeah.
so it's a pity. But the thing is, when you're writing something like this, it's like a child. When it
It
graduates and
really is.
it's out there, you can just love it and nurture it and hope it gets in the right hands. But
That's exactly
who picks it up, what they get from it is out of your control.
right. Exactly. And that's, I keep an eye on those reviews, because I really, really, Amazon reviews sells more books,
Yeah.
but as far as reading them, I skim them, but I don't, it's, I don't take take any of it to you can't look at a bad review or a negative review
You'll always get
and
people that would criticize, and they're criticizing
right.
from their opinion, from their lack of,
Hmm.
and don't, take it in. Oh, maybe you've got something there to critique. I see your point of view. Or
Hmm.
other people, they're just miserable people that just
Yeah.
want to damn everything. And it's like, I feel sorry, okay. Sorry that you're going through that, mate. Love and kisses. Goodbye.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we have to do what we have to do. But yeah, no, it's constructive critique, but there, as I said, there will always be the people that they're just bitchy people and they've got to go and dump on
Mhm.
somebody, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but and it's always interesting, like with friends, when you're doing something and you find success over it, and how some friends then kind of get uppity over it. And again, the Don Rose four agreements, don't take it personally, it's their issue, right? So
That's
yeah.
exactly right.
So Asylum is already out and it can be found on Amazon.
Yes.
And
Yes.
uh,
I
and
just
this one, the Ascendant, is out now also
mhm.
on Amazon.
Yes, yes, it is. You can find both of them there. They're available on ebooks too, Apple, Nook. I think it's Barnes and Nobles is I think that's Nook. There's a couple of more
Mhm.
that that it's on. Um, anybody can go and buy them and read them and
And leave a comment,
yes,
a
please.
nice comment, please. And what is your site, love, so people can find you?
My website is susysmith.com, SUSY Smith.com. And I am on Facebook as well.
Susy
I'd love
Smith,
to,
Writer's Life,
writer
Writer
for
for
life.
Life. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And Twitter, Susie 8469.
8469, my birthday.
Ah.
Maybe I should have said that.
Right. Yeah, yeah, I have an 84 as well. So my son is that.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you listened to the call. You don't know how many people I've interviewed that said, I had a passion for this when I was youth, and then I went and got quote, quote, the real life, the duty life, and,
Mhm.
stepped into a job that I was okay at, but never really filled my heart. Had my 2.2 kids, picket fence and everything else, but this was always calling. And they,
Mhm.
finally heard, I have to do this. So I'm glad that you listened, and I'm glad that you are,
Thank you.
doing this, because it's, as I said to people, it may be fantasy, but there's so much fact in the sense of uh, maybe not the storyline per se, but the character lines of, we can turn around right now and go, that's that person at the present moment. That's that person out there at the present moment. What am I going to do about it? And I think anything that gets you to go, I see where the reflection of this is, what can I do about it? Or
Right.
could I do better? What would I do in that situation? It's good to have this dialogue with yourself. It
Yes.
really
Yes, it
is.
is.
And when a good book kind of puts you in that space and go, okay, I like to relate to a character, and I then kind of ride the book as that character through it.
Mhm.
And sometimes I hate the situations they've got into. And
Yeah.
but that's the excitement of a book. That's why this particular genre is called an author's kiss. Because when you've
Mhm.
got a good author, it's like a kiss that it's giving to you that you don't forget, right? So good luck on this, and come back and tell
Thank
us about
you.
the next ones as well.
Okay, I will. I will. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. So folks, whether you've watched these shows or whether you've read these books, it's a good idea to pick one up and just read, because it is always a reflection to a struggle you're going through, or an observation what's going on in our society, or even like, if we don't do this, this could really happen. So, yes, it's entertaining, yes, it's titillating, but at the same time, it's a reflection. And when we can see that reflection, it's inviting you to do something about it. So pick up the book, have a good read, and then have a good think. Until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tab at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.